Dearest God, may the words of my mouth and all of our mouths and the meditations of my heart and all of our hearts be acceptable to you, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. I thought before we welcome new members today, and by the way, our new members hail from Turkey, Botswana, the US, and here, so right around the world. It makes sense to speak a little bit about what it means to be a member of this faith community and this inclusive faith community. Sees us all on a spiritual journey, of course, one where there isn't anybody who's more saintly than anybody else. We're a community where mouthing creeds isn't as important as living justice. We're a community where following love incarnate, that's what we call Christ here, is more important than engaging in judgments of who's in grace and who's graceless. A community where everyone is included, and everyone means everyone, no matter whether you're wealthy, whether you're living on little, what gender you are, what race you are, what your level of ability is, whether you're LGBTQ2S, what even your politics are. Yes, remember that. Where you don't have to like each other, but you do have to learn to love each other. As Willie Shakespeare said, there's the rub, because this is not a faith family that demands nothing from those joining. In a very real sense, we demand everything from those who are here. We all today, along with our new family members, demand that we learn to love one another as the divine has loved us into being and created us in God's image, despite all of our differences, in fact, because of them. When I first read this Luke passage, I thought, it's a strange passage. It sounds very hierarchical. It doesn't sound like the Jesus we've all come to love, the Jesus who said, the last shall be first. Here you have Jesus saying the servants have to serve and the masters have to be masters and know your place. What isn't included in the lectionary this week is the passage just before this, where Jesus says that to be truly Christian, you have to forgive 70 times 7. And 70 times 7 is the biblical way of saying forever. Forever. So when Luke talks about being a servant, he's talking about serving each other. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about Jesus saying that when we become a member of this faith community, when we adopt this mantle of Christ, as it were, that we're adopting that decree that we have to learn to serve each other. And guess what? We're all going to fail. Of course we will. It's impossible, isn't it? But that's the direction. That is the direction. What a path. And it's a very high cost. That's the very high cost of faith. There's nothing easy about it. That means that we don't give up on one another no matter what. No matter what we've done or left undone, said or left unsaid, no matter what history we have with each other, doesn't matter, fresh start, go forward. We are called to forgive and to have compassion, which means come together, suffering. That's what passion means. Suffering, that we will suffer together as well as rejoice together. It's not an easy path. It's one we're called on when we join this. And the other thing we're called on to do is to create a new world together. That's what we've been called on to do. Whether we've been here for decades or days, we're pledged to that new world. What does that world look like? Well, the Bible tells us it's a world of justice, it's a world of beauty, it's a world where the resources are shared equally with everyone. It's that world. That's the world that we're called to create with God's help. And more intimately here at Trinity-St. Paul's, to a world where whether we're 90 years old or 9 months old, we look after each other. We care for each other. And we do live that out here. It's amazing. Simply because we're all precious. We're so precious. We are so rare. Ain't no one like us. Ain't no one before like us or after us like us. We are singular miracles. And we are called to look after, for example, our babies as if they were the holy infant, Christ's self, and our seniors as if they were Abraham and Sarah, all of our grandparents. That's the call. And why are we doing this? Because that justice, that world of love, this is the model for it. This is where we do that. This is where we learn how to do that. We learn how to do it here, and then we carry it out there, and we hope it spreads. So this is your home, everyone. Thank you for those who've been here for decades and kept it going for us, and welcome to those who haven't. And it's a pretty cool home. High ceilings. Any real estate members among you, Great cast fan organ. Nobody has one of those at home. We have good food, too. You'll find that out, new members' luncheon and others. This is our home, built by our ancestors, this physical place. And you get how important even this building is. When things happen, like 9/11, the churches ringed around 9/11. I was in Ottawa. The churches there were places to run to when the tornadoes hit, when the floods hit, when the ice storm hit. This is our home. So thank you, all of those faithful ones, and the cloud of witnesses who came before us, who kept this place going for us. And to our new members, really important words with incredibly significant meaning. Welcome home. Amen. And now I'm going to call them up. We have 10 people joining. We're so excited. Only one couldn't make it. I don't think Gokhan was able to get here this morning. Ali Turin, do you want to come up to the front? Just stand here behind the altar. And if you want to follow along in the bulletin, you'll find out a little bit about our new members. They're amazing, all of them, folk. Let me see, Ali, just come up and stand behind. So Ali was born in Adıyaman, Turkey, and moved to Canada as a refugee in 2012. Ali is married and has 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. He's an elementary school teacher, and he loves cooking. Have we got a job for you, Ali? Next is Heidi Matthews. Heidi is assistant professor at Osgoode Hall Law School, where she also co-directs the Nathanson Center on Transnational Human Rights, Crime, and Security. Heidi researches and teaches in the areas of international criminal law, the law of war, political theory and sexuality, and the law. Originally from Newfoundland, Heidi has lived in the United States, Europe, and West Africa, and has been in Toronto since 2017. As I've said, she's a native of St. John's, Newfoundland. Heidi. And David Slavic. David, come join us. David is from the US. He's new to Canada, spending much of his adult life working in higher education and in political consulting in Washington, D.C. He has produced numerous new media ventures, has taught advocacy and political strategy to hundreds of activists, and has served as a local planning commissioner in his hometown in Pennsylvania. In this year of a federal election, we need you, David. Welcome. And next, lose my place here, we have Penny Regal. I have to say I've known Penny for decades, met her long, long ago, and Penny is a woman of she says she's a woman of artistic bent. That's being very, very modest. She's an incredible artist. She enjoys singing, sewing, acting, art, and music, and for many years she provided a small residential cleaning service in Toronto. Next, we have the Reverend Kelly Makongwa. Reverend Kelly, come on up. I said to Reverend Kelly, this is the first ordained reverend we've welcomed in as a new member since I've been here. She is from Botswana originally. I've been to Botswana. It's a beautiful country. They told me there the animals outnumber the humans. It's beautiful. She's a mom of one. She was ordained by the United Congregational Church of Southern Africa, formerly London Missionary Society, to the Ministry of Word and Sacrament in June 2006. She served full-time from 2004 to 2010. She later founded a charitable foundation in 2011 for the less privileged, with particular focus on grooming of children. She moved away from Botswana in 2016, and we are the beneficiary of her here. Welcome. And Daniel Mann. Daniel, welcome. Come on up. Daniel grew up in a few small towns in Grey and Dufferin counties, but he's lived in Toronto for 19 years. He works in tech support in the financial services. He's passionate about classical and Baroque music, and he's looking forward to joining us, of course, and we're looking forward to having him here. And just a personal note, Dan was Jared's roommate before Jared left to New Brunswick. And next we have Melissa Hudson. Again, Melissa I've known from many parts of my life. She's born and raised in Toronto, graduated with a major in business administration. She says her grandmother instilled a duty to community, which began with work, breaking the cycle of poverty through investing in the education of single mothers. Community service that she does includes board work with Children's Aid, the Toronto Police Services Chiefs LGBT Advisory Committee, Children's Camp Funding, and Victims of Crime. She's lived in Rosedale and Yorkville communities for the past 30 years, working on the revenue side, consulting after a career in lease financing. And I know her as this really incredible agent and activist on behalf of many trans women in this community who live on the street with next to nothing. Welcome, Melissa. And of course, and you've already heard of her and from her, Judy Bonner. And Judy knows this building well. She was a member of Metropolitan Community Church, and she was in ministry at Christos when Christos worshiped here at Trinity-St. Paul's. Judy is happy now that she's got a home and answered prayer to be turning up for a choir practice. She is a singer of longstanding and an activist. And last but not least, Tori Shanks. Tori, do you want to come up? Tori moved to Toronto 3 years ago from Albany, New York, with her son Jasper and husband Ambarish. She's a professor of political science at the University of Toronto, working in feminist theory and the history of political thought. Let's give a round of applause for our new members. Look at them, it's amazing. And I also want to welcome all our companions up as well. Our companions provide an invaluable link for our new members and the church family here, all of our circles, and of course, what we're about as church. And together, we are going to say our mission statement. So you'll find that in your bulletin. So together, let's say, Trinity-St. Paul's United Church is an inclusive and affirming Christian community, celebrating God's presence, seeking justice and peace, strengthening faith, and nourishing the creative spirit. And now I'm going to ask everybody in the congregation to rise, please. As congregants, part of the family here at Trinity-St. Paul's Center for Faith, Justice, and the Arts, I'm going to ask you, do you promise to welcome these new members as members of our family here, to extend your love, care, and commitment to them, and to walk with them on our shared spiritual journey? If so, say, we do, God being our helper. Amen. Please be seated. And again, thank you, new members. You may be seated as well, and welcome.